Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session, Empower Your Employees to Work from Home with Microsoft Windows Virtual Desktop, WVD. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Linda Raud, and I'm the Business Development Director at Beyondsoft, and I will be your co-host today. I just have a few housekeeping announcements before we get started. This webinar is going to be recorded and made available, and it's going to last approximately 45 minutes, including Q&A. The audience will be muted, so please type in your questions in the Q&A section of the screen so you can answer them at the end of the presentation. Or you can always write to us later to address your question or a specific situation, and we will be happy to answer them. So let's start. The objective of this webinar is to have an overview of WVD and how you can benefit from it, because more than ever, remote work is top of mind for everyone, right? So to perform our daily activities today and compete in today's market, especially in these challenging times, organizations like yours need to provide their employees access to the tools and applications that they need in order to do their jobs, without sacrificing productivity, agility, or security even, whether they're working from office or more than we would see these days from home, right? So a lot of companies like yours are reassessing their approach to remote work. They're looking for affordable technology to help employees to be more connected, more productive, and secure, and that exactly is what WVD does. So we're glad to put this webinar together and share some knowledge from our team of experts to help you get the facts, of course, and how you can help your organizations to implement it. Before we start, please allow me to tell you a little bit about our company, and then we will go directly to the topic that brought us here today. So Beyondsoft is a company, a gold certified partner, and we're a solid IT solutions and professional services company based here in Bellevue, Washington. And we have a long-term relationship with Microsoft as a vendor, as a partner for over 25 years. So we have a strong footprint in the market, being Microsoft certified in several competencies, including cloud, data analytics, as you can see. And we're also a global company, and we cover all time zones, serving customers in Asia, Europe, and Central America. And here in the US, we have several offices in Washington, Texas, and California, and we provide services nationwide. Also, we offer a great portfolio of innovative IT solutions and professional services that include WVD, cloud, Azure mainly, DevOps, data analytics, and machine learning, among many others, as you can see. That has allowed us to grow with our customers and have a long-term relationship with them. Well, with that, I would like to introduce you to today's presenter, Aquil Mohammed. Aquil is Beyondsoft's Cloud Solution Director, and he has been in the IT industry for over 16 years. And Aquil shares his passion for technology, leading our team of experts, and he has built a strong reputation for delivering complex solutions to global clients and for solving business and technical problems for customers of all sizes and industries through architecting and implementing enterprise-wide solutions like this one. I'm very happy to work and learn from him on a daily basis, and I'm glad that he can share his knowledge on WVD, where he has been investing a lot of his time and energy working close to Microsoft, developing, testing, architecting, and implementing WVD solutions. And now, I'd like to turn it over to your presenter, Aquil. You have the floor.
Sounds good. Thanks, Linda. Thanks for the introduction. And once again, thank you everyone for joining us today. And I'm really excited to talk about today's topic, Windows Virtual Desktop. My excitement is, purely a reflection of, our own customer satisfaction and the excitement we see among them when it comes to WVD technology. Let's look at today's agenda quickly. We'll start with an introduction to desktop virtualization and talk about some of the business scenario where this technology is applicable. Then we'll cover an overview of Windows Virtual Desktop. We'll talk about Beyondsoft's journey and relationship with WVD. Then we'll spend some time looking into the features and benefits that Windows Virtual Desktop has to offer. And then we'll wrap it up with some next steps and Q&A. With that, let's get started. All right, so when we talk about desktop virtualization, historically, it's been there to address many specific business scenarios. For those of you in the audience who are not familiar with what desktop virtualization is, or VDI, often referred to as, VDI stands for Virtual Desktop Infrastructure. It's a technology that allows IT admin to take end user desktop operating system, business critical applications, the storage and compute requirements, and centralize that into an on-prem data center or in the cloud, and then deliver that virtually back to end user. The end user just access their virtual desktop or applications through any device of their choice, or probably through a browser, and then perform their day-to-day activities, as if those applications and resources are locally to their device. That's just a simple explanation of what desktop virtualization is. And why organizations opt for it. I will look into it as we go through the presentation. Let's look at some of the scenarios where this technology is widely used. So if your organization faces kind of daily regulatory requirements or has strong security requirements, then desktop virtualization kind of makes sense, especially in the industries like financial, healthcare, and government, where regulations and compliance play a big role. This allows IT to really centralize all user desktops and applications, and then control them to meet any compliance requirements. Similarly, if your organization has more of an elastic workforce, either due to a merger and acquisition, or you just hire too many short-term employees and contractors purely because of the nature of the business you are in, it could be a nightmare for your IT to manage the different variations of VMs for those end user desktops and their images, and and to provision them on the fly for a number of users. So that could be another good scenario where elastic workforce, where desktop virtualization is heavily used. And similarly, if you have any specific employees like mobile users, for example, sales teams spread across globe, or call centers in multiple cities across the globe, or you have branch workers across various cities. That again poses a good scenario for this solution, as it allows the IT's admins to kind of centralize the end user desktops and provide a consistent view across all the users, regardless where they are in the globe. Lastly, some scenario includes the specialized workloads. This is the scenarios where your employees might have some specific needs in terms of compute and processing, like in case of design and engineering, and running heavy compute tools like AutoCAD. Or you might just have a dedicated requirement for C-level employees, to have their own virtual desktop. This again is a good example of where this technology could be used, as it allows them to isolate different set of users and really scale up and scale down the compute and other requirements on need basis. So what we have seen historically among our own customers is most of our enterprise customers are really using this technology, and some of our mid-sized customers were using this technology. But where we stand today, and as we learned from the recent pandemic, the application of this technology has gone far beyond just this business scenarios. As we all have been kind of forced to stay home and work from home. Many companies, including our own customers, have struggled to really provide, and enable remote working for their employees. And companies like Beyondsoft is really stepping in to help help companies and our customers to enable that remote working for their employees, to bring back that connectivity among their employees, to bring back that productivity of their employees, and more importantly, the business continuity. So really bring back the business continuity for our customers. Let's look into what traditional VDI used to be compared to what the modern DaaS offering is. So traditionally, a VDI or RDS solutions was mostly handled by IT, and was right from instantiating to really setting up and the environment and really entitlement. Everything was handled by IT in the form of server roles, various server roles, and or VM roles, either on-prem data centers, on cloud. With the evolution of cloud and pretty much everything as a service, it kind of logically makes sense for this technology, which is, by the way, it's not a new technology. The VDI has been existed for many decades now, so it was long due for a refresh. So it kind of logically makes sense to evolve this technology into something as DaaS, desktop as an offering, where majority of those roles and services that are required are handled by your DaaS provider, leaving your IT to focus on image management and really entitlement on that, and leaving all the burden of how various roles works, various services works to really deliver that experience to end user to the DaaS provider. With that, it brings us to Windows Virtual Desktop, which is Microsoft's solution or answer to DaaS, Desktop as a Service. It is one of the best virtualized desktop experience and app experience out there. It supports both Windows servers as well as Windows 10 and Windows 7. So if you have an existing VDI environment that's either using Windows Server or a Windows 10 single session or in Windows 7 single session, then you can bring those and really integrate with WVD. It allows you to do that. The really uniqueness of WVD has to offer is the multi-session Windows 10 deployment that delivers a full Windows 10 with scalability. So I think that really brings apart WVD compared to other technologies in this area. WVD is also optimized for Office 365 experience. Again, for those who are familiar, the traditional VDI used to be really troublesome when it comes to running Office apps and clients. And like I mentioned, you can bring your Windows 7 virtual desktop. The gain over there is you bring that free. There's no cost to you to just integrate with WVD. And you can virtualize both desktops and apps for your end user, and it's all done through a one single management service that's delivered in Azure for you. Just to reiterate some of the supporting OS for this technology, Windows 10 Enterprise Multi-Session, which is, like I said earlier, is only available through WVD. And then Windows 10 Enterprise Single Session, Windows 7 Single Session, and the other versions of Windows Server, which were available in the previous version, and WVD also allows you to bring them and integrate well. Let's quickly look at the architecture overview of WVD. There are three major pieces to WVD in terms of DaaS offering. The clients, obviously, pretty much the user can use any device out there or HTML5 enabled browser to access their virtual desktops and apps. The middle part is the Microsoft Managed Services. This is where all the overhead is taken away from your IT admin, and really Microsoft manages all those different roles in terms of PaaS offering. So your IT just uses those services to set up the environment and really focuses on the third part, which is setting up the Azure VMs for your end users, the desktops and the apps, and the management of Active Directory and user profiles. We'll talk about FS Logics a little bit later. So I won't go in detail of how this technology works. The key point to note it is here, the majority of the overhead is taken by Microsoft PaaS service, including load balancing and the SQL Server management and all other aspects. Let's quickly and briefly talk about Beyondsoft's involvement with WVD. Beyondsoft, works with Microsoft in many different ways. Microsoft is our one of biggest customer, and as well as we are a gold partner and a preferred partner for Microsoft across various products and services. We are very well connected within Microsoft and the partner ecosystem. Among other products, WVD, we have been working really closely right from its inceptions. We have taken part in a lot of their private previews and provided some useful feedbacks about their product and some of the benefits and features you will see shortly. We have also worked with Microsoft closely to define multiple different scenarios as it relates to WVD, Windows Virtual Desktop, and the scenarios pertaining to taking advantage of what Azure has to offer, like how do you integrate WVD and enable multi-factor authentication? How do you work with identity and WVD together, and geo-replication, disaster recovery, ASR, just to name few. So our Beyondsoft expertise just doesn't lie with the provisioning and managing WVD. It goes way beyond, and we can really have defined the various multiple scenarios and has made it easy for our customers and partners to get onboarded with those technologies and services. We have also automated a lot of provisioning and management and diagnosis part of Windows Virtual Desktop environment using PowerShell, and lastly, we use a cloud adoption framework approach. CAF is Microsoft's one vision where all the best practices, rules and regulations, and the tools are brought together to really speed up the adoption of our customers to cloud. We use a similar approach for our customers to adopt to WVD. The three different variations of desktop virtualizations offering from Microsoft, and my Beyondsoft specializes in all of those. The first one being more of an on-prem setup where all the roles are defined and on-prem and set up on-prem using either VMs or physical servers, which is kind of really difficult to set up and requires a lot of investment on the infrastructure. The middle one is taking the same roles and putting into infrastructure as a service in cloud, which is also kind of difficult to set up because pretty much IT needs to manage everything, all the roles and service setup. But there's a saving in terms of infrastructure itself. And finally, the Windows Virtual Desktop itself. This is where the real savings comes in. And it's very easy to set up because it's most of those roles are offered as PaaS offering from Microsoft. So IT doesn't really need to do any much over there other than setting up the services and then just focus on infrastructure. And there's a lot of cost saving along there as well, as we'll see. With that, let's jump and talk about some of the features and benefits that Windows Virtual Desktop has to offer. We'll spend some time here. The three main areas where really you'll see the benefit of Windows Virtual Desktop. The first one being the user experience itself, which for those who are familiar has been a nightmare in the previous VDI or RDS environment for various reasons. Then the second benefit is along the security enhancements themselves, and the third, the management of your virtual environment itself. So we'll talk about those three in detail shortly. And obviously, this is with all these three enhancements, you take advantage of the Azure itself as the services provided in cloud. You make use of all the standardization, globalization, and security that Azure has to offer. Then superior economics, there's a lot of cost savings, flexibility, and obviously converting your CapEx to OpEx expense. And last but not least, Microsoft provides a strong partner ecosystem, like Beyondsoft is one of them. So let's talk about each one of those benefits a little bit in more detail. I think this is where we'll provide you a lot more insight in some of the features that WVD brings to you and your users, and especially in terms of migrating from your traditional VDI environments to a new WVD experience. So end user experience, Microsoft has focused on many different areas to really improve and provide services and benefits across multiple different aspects of user experience. So platform of your choice, the WVD users can pretty much connect to WVD desktops and apps from any device of their choice. Both the local and remote UI is really optimized for various form factors across all the supported platforms like Windows, Mac OS, iOS, HTML5, and Android. And to be honest, the experience on Windows and Mac OS is pretty native-like and integrated experience. It's hard to tell the difference between the local app and virtual app. So the second aspect of end user experience improvement is Windows differentiation. Windows devices obviously delivers the best WVD experience for end user. It's very local-like experience because everything is well integrated into all aspects of Windows device, like the start menu, the taskbar, action center, and so on. Because it's a Windows device that the end user is accessing WVD from, it provides support for many devices like multiple monitor support, printers, any USB-enabled devices. The third aspects of end user experience improvement is related to protocol itself. Again, this is one of the biggest improvements. The RDP enhancements delivers one of the optimized WVD experience for end users. It provides support for Windows Hello for Business and also smart card authentication. It uses a technique called dynamically adapting bandwidth utilization. It's basically a technique by which the traffic bandwidth in a shared medium can be allocated on demand and fairly between different users of that bandwidth, basically. It also uses a technique called dynamic resolution scaling. What that means is changes to the resolutions are on the fly in response to whatever user is doing on the screen. So which is, again, a huge improvement compared to the previous setup of VDIs. Again, the graphics are really optimized for both text and video. The fourth aspects of end user benefit or experience improvement is the really key changer or value, a compelling value for WVD is the containerized user profile by using a technology called FS Logics. This is a technology where the user profiles are stored into a VHD container, which are stored in on Azure. As the user logs on, these VHDs are dynamically attached at the logon time, and the content appears really very local to the virtual environment or desktop once the VHD is attached. With this technology, really enables is the fast logon for end users. That has been a really problem in the previous setup of VDIs. The next set of improvements, the container user profiles also enables, very native like O365 experience. End users, really experience very native performance, both in non-persistent and persistent virtual environment. Just to give you an example over there, the Outlook client usually in the virtual environment has been a really problematic in the previous setup. And Microsoft, the WVD brings a lot of enhancement to that Outlook client itself, whereas the cached OSD file can be stored into VHD itself in the user profile. And as it gets attached at the logon time, the load time for the client and the emails is pretty fast and pretty native-like experience. That's, again, one of the key compelling value or enhancements and features of WVD. The last end user experience enhancement is along the conferencing and media experience itself. Again, a lot of improvements has been made over there. Teams provides, for example, very good end user conferencing and media experience, and it uses less network bandwidth compared to previous environments. The video itself has been optimized to work over the virtual environment, and also there's an enhanced UI for ease of use in the virtual environment for teams. So that's to give you just some idea of some really good enhancements for end user experience compared to the traditional VDI setup. Or if you are new to desktop virtualization, these are some of the really good benefits that you can make use of. With that, let's talk about the next aspects of benefits, which is on the enhanced security. The enhanced security capabilities are already built in because it's hosted on Azure, so customers can really make use of it. And the WVD customers can benefit from all the investment that Microsoft has put in and is also continues to invest in the Azure security. And customers can configure familiar Azure security services, as they build on their own deployment, for example, multi-factor authentication and conditional access. The second security enhancement is reduced attack surface. The attack surface is reduced because of a technology called reverse connect. Essentially, that means we don't open any inbound ports to VMs. So there are few places of attacks. The IT doesn't really need to monitor the inbound ports. They can focus on access and identity-based attack. Again, that's a huge improvement in terms of security. The third aspects of security enhancement is granular access control. The ability to define role-based access means that customers can, parse out administration tasks and also protect their sensitive users, groups, and workloads. So you can have different admins, controlling different aspects of your WVD environment. Finally, isolated user session. Most of our customers often ask us in a virtual environment whether their sessions are isolated. Can other users see what they are doing? Just to say it out there, yes, all the sessions are completely isolated, whether it's a single or multi-session environment. So the third and final aspects of enhancements or benefits is the simplified management of whole complete WVD experience itself. The user experience management is all through one single service. Both desktops and remote apps are delivered and configured through one service, and there's very flexible user experience through single host pool with multiple app groups, ability to define multiple app groups within a single host. And obviously the user logs in with the known Azure AD credentials to access their WVD resources. So if you already have a presence in Azure, there's not much learning curve for your IT as well as for your end user. Azure WVD integrates pretty well with your existing Azure environment. The second aspects of management is on VM management itself. There are multiple tools available there to automate your VM deployment, update of your images and apps, and obviously setting up your disaster recovery with integrated Azure Site Recovery. The third management aspects is on the WVD service management itself. Like I mentioned already, a single service that provides everything, including the diagnosis part of it. So the IT can really make use of the diagnosis services to see exactly what's going on, all the problems that are happening in the WVD environment setup. And really take actions based on those alerts and information. And there are many third-party tools that are available there for you to use, or you can use PowerShell out of the box to really troubleshoot those aspects. So those are some of the enhancements and benefits that are provided with WVD. Let's talk about some of the aspects of benefits that it comes as a part of hosting on Azure. Like I mentioned earlier, since it's on Azure, you can make use of all the existing standardization, the globalization, the fact that Azure is present in 54 different regions across the world, and depending on your user base, where they are located, you can host your WVD host pools in that region. And again, finally, make all the investment that Microsoft is putting into securing the Azure is also applicable to WVD. So you get a very secure and protective environment to protect your data, your business assets, and sensitive information. This is the really big benefit and savings when it comes to WVD, superior economics. There's a huge saving in infrastructure, about 70% of the savings when you use your existing, if you already have an existing qualified licensing, and then making use of Windows 10 multi-session experience, it can really help you gain some of those cost savings on infrastructure. And really, depending on your complexity, you can really optimize to make use of all the possible savings that Azure has to offer. For example, the reserve instances. You can really make use of reserve instances to save almost 70% on all your VMs infrastructure. The second cost saving is along the licensing. So if you already have, you could be qualified for WVD. And if you already have an existing RDS environment already built in, you can use those CALs and bring them into WVD to make use of the multi-session deployment. And obviously, if you have Windows 7 images that you want to bring in, then it's pretty much free, 3-year included with WVD. You don't have to pay for extended services for those Windows 7 images. The lastly but not least is the savings of when it comes to the labor cost itself. Because most of this is handled by Microsoft in the form of PaaS service, there's not much labor efforts required to manage all those complex roles that used to exist before. In turn, your IT can focus on really the compute and storage and the image management aspects of your WVD environment. So these three things combined together really brings a huge saving, as we have seen firsthand among our own customers. Let's talk about FS Logics a little bit. It's a technology that I have briefly already covered. Allows user profiles to be really containerized and saved into VHD on Azure. And as the user logs on, that VHD gets attached to that VM, and the end user experiences really fast logon time. And because of this technology, it also has optimized Office 365 experience, because all the cached OST files are saved into the user profile and then get attached as the user logs in. This really brings out one of the best user experience in the VDI environments out there. The second piece of technology that comes with FS Logics is app masking. This is a technology where you can really minimize the number of gold images that you need to maintain. You can install all your apps into one single environment or VM, and then use app masking to really hide the apps that an end user is not required to see. So that's the technology that it enables as part of app masking. The third piece of technology that is available with FS Logics is Java redirection itself. For those application developers, they might realize the pain of really mapping an application to the right version of Java. That could be a nightmare, and both in terms of management and troubleshooting. So FS Logics kind of provides the technology to really manage that mapping and really use app masking to hide the other versions of that are not required for that user. With that, let's talk about some of the cost and licensing aspects. You are pretty much entitled to WVD if you have any one of these available licenses already signed up. So Microsoft 365 F1, E3, E5, A3, A5 Business, or Windows 10 Enterprise E3, E5, Windows 10 Education A3, A5, Windows 10 VDA per user. Similarly, if you already have an RDS environment, you can bring your CALs from that environment and start using WVD. FS Logics itself is kind of it's free if you have any one of this entitlement of any one of this license entitlement. The thing that you pay for is actually the Azure subscription and the usage. Only pay for the VMs, the storage and networking and other aspects of it. And like I mentioned earlier, make use of the reserve instances in combination with multi-session Windows 10 to really save huge on your expenses. Let's look at a quick example of what that expense might look like for a simple scenario of a customer, which of a medium size running only Microsoft apps, number of users being 1,000, let's assume, and a peak concurrency of 80%, and a storage requirement of 20 GB per user, network egress of 100 kbps. Some of the key assumptions for this customer requirement, this is no means a recommendation for you. This is just an estimation, an assumption from our side. For your own requirement, your IT admin can help you, identify your setup, or a partner like Beyondsoft can really help you identify your setup based on your requirement. So for these scenarios, we are recommending, a region for East US, because that's where the majority of the users are. Making use of 3-year reserve instances to really save huge on cost. We are make use of D8S V3 VMs for multi-session. we are anticipating 4 users per vCPU to really provide a good experience. And then for single session, D2, V3 VMs. We'll be using Azure NetApp files for storing the VHD user profiles, and then obviously the virtual network setup. With that assumptions, the cost that comes down to this particular customer scenario, if you are using Windows 10 multi-session, is close to $7, 6.7, and the same cost when you're using Windows Server. The difference being Windows 10 obviously provides much more of an end user experience compared to the Windows Server. So regardless, the cost the same. If you're using Windows 10 single session in a pool environment, the cost really jumps high to $40 approximately. And if you're using that of a single session for a personal, like a C-level or some other dedicated engineers, then the cost jumps really high, about 50%, $50. So this is just to give you an idea of what the cost. Again, your requirements could be different, and the cost might vary with your requirements. Let's quickly talk about a partner ecosystem. Citrix and VMware are WVD approved providers. If you already have presence in either Citrix or VMware, you can use those existing tools and extend to Azure to make use of WVD. It just requires less learning curve for your IT admins to go through, and allows you to make use of all the investment you are already made in Citrix or VMware. But you always have the option to go native on WVD. Microsoft also provides many value-added customers, like Beyondsoft, and Beyondsoft has partnered with Nerdio to provide a really good experience for our customers. Like I mentioned earlier, Beyondsoft has automated a lot of the provisioning and management using PowerShell. What Nerdio brings to the table is a UI-friendly environment for doing the same. And very cost-effective solution. So we have really evaluated many partners and decided to go with Nerdio and to bring a really good experience for our customers in terms of both management and end user experience. With that, is Windows Virtual Desktop the right for your organization? So based on all the benefits and the features I have discussed, that might have given you an idea whether it's a right solution for your organization or not. Maybe it got you excited to look into it more detail. But like I mentioned throughout my presentation, if any one of these scenarios applies to you or anything I said sounds appealing to you, then definitely this is the right solution to go for it. And especially in today's world where you really need to enable your employees to work remotely. And with that, let's talk about next steps. Microsoft really estimates the deployment of WVD bringing, like I mentioned earlier, 70% savings in infrastructure, 60% saving in licensing cost, and 60% saving in labor cost. If this sounds really appealing to you, you can always reach out to Beyondsoft and partner with us to take advantage of the flexibility, cost, and security benefits that WVD has to offer. So if you want to really schedule a call with us to discuss more, feel free to do that. Use the email address provided below. You can always go to our website to learn more about WVD and Beyondsoft itself. I hope that this provided you some really good insight into what WVD is and how it can benefit your organization. Like I mentioned earlier, this was meant to be an overview and introduction to WVD for our customers and audience out there. If you have much more complex requirements, you can always reach out to us so that we can really look into your requirements in details and provide a robust solution for your needs. With that, I will turn over to Q&A and hand over back to Linda.
Thank you, Aquil. Now we're opening the Q&A section. If you haven't done it yet, please type in your question and I will read it and Aquil will answer it. If we run out of time, or if you have a more broad question or a situation that you want to discuss with us, please send us an email to the email address that was shown below, and we can schedule a call with you. Aquil, it seems that we have a few questions from our attendees. First question is, how to decide between Citrix Virtual App Desktop and WVD? Which one do you recommend?
Okay. It totally depends. It depends on your preference. So like I mentioned briefly, if you already have a presence in Citrix and you're using some flavor of Citrix virtual app or desktop, and your IT is familiar with the tools, you can extend your Citrix environment to reach out to Azure and make use of Windows 10 multi-session that WVD has to offer. In that way, you minimize the learning curve for your IT admin. But you always have the option to go native and use WVD. If you want to really save on licensing and cost. Licensing cost and other heavy costs that Citrix poses. So if you're starting and you don't have any presence, then again, if you are depending on your requirements, you can always start with WVD, and probably the right way to go to so that you can make use of some of the savings that Azure and WVD has to offer.
Okay.
I hope that answers.
Thank you, Aquil. We have another question. We have few of them. So the second one is how does the audio video session perform with WVD?
Audio video session, that's a good one. I think I briefly touched base on Teams. So audio video sessions, WVD service really brings a lot of enhancements when it comes to audio and video redirection. In the earlier VDI setups, traditionally, this was really problematic, especially the video aspects of it for the conferencing tools. Purely for the fact that it had to really hop through multiple different roles that WVD, the traditional VDI uses, all those hops kind of poses failure point or slowness or latency, especially in the video streaming and conferencing. So what WVD has done is, allowed for audio video redirection. What that means is it now lets the endpoints talk to each other so that it doesn't need to hop through multiple points in between, and really have the endpoints talk and really streamline and provide that efficient experience for end user. And to be honest, it's more native-like experience, even in terms of video, if you have the right configuration set up.
Excellent. So we have another question. How long does it take to set up a WVD service and environment?
How long does it take to set up? Again, it depends on your environment. So your requirements. So you can, if you already have a presence in Azure, you can just go out there and make use of the marketplace images and set up a environment probably within a day, actually, a simple environment. But if you, depending on where your Active Directory is, how we need to integrate them with the WVD, depending on your other criteria in terms of compute and storage, Office 365 usage, it might take a few more days to set up that entire environment. So typically, to set up a base vanilla environment and integrate with your Active Directory and Azure, all that could be easily done within a week. But again, depending on your business critical apps and how they are set up, the load balancing aspects of it, redirection aspects of it, and the configuration and setup, it could take a little bit longer than that as well. So again, it totally depends on your requirements.
We have another question that is more licensing oriented. We have Office 365 E3. Are we entitled to WVD?
Office 365 E3, not with Office 365 E3. So you can always upgrade to Microsoft 365 variant of it, and then swap out the license for your users from Office 365 to Microsoft 365. Again, Microsoft 365 has a lot of benefits just beyond WVD. It means, it combines your Windows licensing, it combines your, Azure mobility and security suites, and your Office 365 itself. So all those three benefits are provided as part of Microsoft 365. So users can really make use of all those three aspects, and apart from just entitlement to WVD, and especially on the security, if you have a rigorous compliance requirements, then Microsoft 365 is the way to go.
Excellent, Aquil. So I think we have more questions, but I think it would be, for the sake of the time, I think this concludes our webinar of today. And for the audience, we're here to help you from planning to implementation. If you have additional questions, please reach out to us, and I will personally connect with you or Aquil. And well, thank you again for taking the time to join us today. Thank you, Aquil.
Thank you.